I didn't. Here we go. Yeah. It still brings me so much emotions to think of that beautiful hymn of Jesus Christ, You Are My Life from the year 2000's World Youth Day when it was first introduced. Yeah.
I know, and
Welcome,
it's
guys,
amazing.
to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it still amazes me to hear just this beautiful hymn, but I'll stop because it's always Italian, and I hate to make it sound like only the Italians have this beautiful hymn because it's also in other languages. But my friends, welcome to WYD Rocks. I am Dario Mobini from worldyouthday.com, joined by my good friend Deacon Pedro from WYDcentral.org, and we're here with another episode of All Things World Youth Day. Deacon Pedro, how are you, my friend?
I'm very good, thank you. It's been a good week. We're busy. Lots going on, and Lisbon has been giving us some good reasons to 10 good reasons actually to attend World Youth Day. So a little bit last time we were talking about how there's not a lot of stuff on the website, but that the more is going to be coming soon, and more came.
Absolutely. And the other thing I didn't tell you, but we're actually going to be sharing one of our social media guys with the World Youth Day Committee because they need help in promoting English language material. And so when this came out, I thought to myself, why not make a two-part episode on this, because it's such a cool thing. We talked about last week, is what do we need to do to get ready? Yes, guys, very soon you guys will be able to register on the website, but not yet. But how do we get ready for this? We talked about building the momentum last week, right? I mean, it's easy to build the momentum, but then we're going to get to also parts like some questions or emails saying, what do we do for fundraising? I can't afford to go to World Youth Day. It sounds like it's very expensive. In our last episode, we talked about how ideally you're probably going to be spending around $2,000 to $2,500, unless you're going with a private tour company where a little bit more might be included, because you got to consider the airport transfer, or you got to consider moving from site to site. All that stuff we'll talk about later, though. I mean, it's not a big deal. But top 10 reasons to go to World Youth Day 2023 in Lisbon. Let's take care of the top 5 right now, and let's look at them together. So it's found on the website, lisbon2023.org, which is the official website. You will also find this linked into our Facebook accounts with World Youth Day.com and WYD Central as well. But let's hit number 1.
Yeah, and can we just say that these are not in any, it's not like a hierarchy. It's not particular order. It's not like we're doing a countdown. Like, we're starting with number 1 because that's really just the first one, but it's not the most important one. Although it's pretty important. It's pretty important.
So number 1, being with the Pope. All right. So yes, Pope Francis will be in Lisbon. Even though at the last, if you've been watching on the news, he had a surgery, a procedure on his leg that kind of sidelined him a little bit. He was unable to go to Sudan, but he did go to Canada a couple weeks ago. And now, even though he's not taking any trips soon, I mean, I think he's going to be
going to Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan, right? And I have a friend of mine who's September a Kazakh journalist for EWTN, who is probably super excited about that opportunity.
Yeah, September 13th.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine Kazakhstan, right? Yeah. So, and then Lisbon is on his docket. And I always say if he is Pope, because God forbid, health-wise of the Pope.
Anything can happen. And Pope Francis has always been, I think that from day one in 2013 in Brazil, he kept saying, I don't know if I'll be in the next World Youth Day, but Peter will be there.
Yes.
So the Pope will be there. And again, I think that, we didn't say that the first reason is not being with Pope Francis. It's being with the Pope.
Yes.
The Pope, because it doesn't matter if it was Pope Benedict or John Paul II or Pope Francis or the next Pope, it's still going to be the Pope. The Pope is like can we say he's like the special guest, or maybe the keynote speaker of World Youth Day is the Pope.
Yeah, and the best part is the fact is that the church has a vested interest in being present with young people. Do not assume just because if Pope Francis is unable to make it because he's no longer the Pope, whether he abdicates or whether he passes away, again, God forbid, because we don't want that to happen anytime soon, especially because the church, needs the successor of Peter visible. And it'd be very tough right now, emotionally and psychologically, to go through another conclave. Like, I can't even imagine. But,
Yeah, no, don't go there.
no, no, right. But, the thing is that's important to realize is that successor Peter will be there.
Yes.
And that's the exciting part.
And that is, sorry, and I think we probably have said this, a year ago, whenever we started doing this show, that is one of the reasons why World Youth even exists, is that the Holy Father, Pope, when John Paul II started this, he wanted to encounter young people. I think he could remember the days when he would, go hiking with a university chaplaincy in the mountains in Poland, and because he wants to encounter young people. So even though it's impossible for the Pope to have a one-on-one encounter with 3 million young people, there's a little bit of a sense that it is a personal encounter, even though you're there. I mean, you could sit at home and watch it on TV, and that's good if you can't go. But there's something special about being there, even if you're only seeing the Pope, like he's like that far away from you, or you never even saw the Pope mobile, through the crowds driving there. You're not in the same room with him. You're not going to get a chance to, maybe you will, but you probably won't have a chance to exchange words with him. But to listen to him speak while you're there, it's not the same as listen to him speak, like if you heard him on TV or if you read the speech afterwards. So there is something about being there that makes you kind of you are with the Pope and with all these other young people. And that's one of the reasons why World Youth Day exists, because it's an encounter between the Holy Father, the Vicar of Christ, and young people.
And don't forget that, yes, the Holy Father is speaking directly to you. Even though there's a million other young people present, he is speaking directly to you, directly to your heart. And that's important to realize. Will you be able to see the Holy Father up close and personal and get a selfie with him? Probably
not.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Being present with the Holy Father is a special event. Can you see the Holy Father up close and personal even better in Rome? Yes. But that's not why we go to World Youth Day. We go to World Youth Day because we're together as the mystical body of Christ in union with our Holy Father, the successor of St. Peter, present so that we can encounter not only one another, but Christ through him.
Exactly. That's it. And everybody that wonders, why are young people so enthralled with the Pope, and what are they? It's because it's not the Pope. It's because it's Christ. It's Christ. And somehow through the figure, the persona Christi, the figure of the Pope, somehow that is a little bit of a sacrament, I think, that leads us towards Christ. But it's not a personal, individual encounter with the Pope, which I think is why we have the second reason why we go World Youth Day. That's about meeting young people from around the world. Like, you're doing it with all these other young people from around the world. But that's just as important, that it's an encounter with the Pope, but it's also an encounter with other young people, and maybe not so young people.
Well, you've been to several World Youth Days now, and you and I, I'm sure, have been.
Yeah, you've been to more, but yeah.
Well, come on now. But the thing interesting that I get a lot of questions is every country represented at World Youth Day?
Pretty much. It'd be interesting to see. I know that individual World Youth Days will have statistics like that, but it'd be interesting to see, to do a over the years tally. And I bet you that if you go from 1984 all the way to 2023, you probably would get every single country around the world. Maybe not officially, but maybe there was that one person from Togo that happened to go with the delegation from Ghana, even though that particular country may not have had. But every single country the Catholic Church exists in every country around the world. Every country on the world has Episcopal conferences and bishops. And so every country will have a priest that probably wants to go with some young people. And if not, then there's probably a young person somewhere in that country that would have wanted to go to a World Youth Day or would have had that opportunity, which was what was beautiful about World Youth Day Panama, because it gave a lot of young people from that region, Central America and the Caribbean, that would never have had a chance to go to a World Youth Day in Europe or even in North America, definitely not in Australia. but all of a sudden they could go to Panama because it was, maybe a $150 bus ride and they could get to
Mm,
World Youth Day, right?
yeah.
So I think that yeah, maybe not every country at every World Youth Day, but definitely over the years, I bet you every country has been represented.
Yeah, I was going to say, because in Panama, I ran into a group of amazing youth that had vibrant energy from the island of Wallis and Fortuna in the Pacific Island. I mean, I never even heard of that country.
I
So
know, I
of
know.
course, it
And
was
how did
like,
they get there? Like
oh
that's
my gosh,
yeah, exactly.
they flew to New Zealand, to
Hawaii and then Hawaii to
Hawaii. Yes,
California. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Hawaii
And
to
then yeah,
Los Angeles to. I mean, I was just like, oh my
yeah, I
gosh, you
know.
guys went to a 30 hours of flight. They're
Yeah,
like, we've been saving for this for
yeah,
most of our lives
yeah,
because this is the most important encounter that we have with other young people. You become an ambassador
yeah,
of not only your country, but your Episcopal conference, your diocese, your
yeah.
city. I mean, and we can talk more about this in our future episodes, and we can say, like, how do you get people connected? Can you get the mayor of your city to sponsor you, considering
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
going to a major world event, and that
Yeah.
you can bring back stories of how you brought the story of the city to those you encountered in the world? Stay tuned for more on that one. But let's move
Yeah.
to number 3 now. And let's take a look at number 3. Number 3 is be part of a unique pilgrimage experience.
Pilgrimage. Yeah.
It's not like a pilgrimage where you like walking the Camino or going to Lourdes or Fatima, but you will be most likely going to Fatima when you go to World Youth Day in Lisbon. And I sincerely hope that if you're listening to this episode and you're thinking to yourself, I want to go to World Youth Day, or I'm going to World Youth Day and I'm only planning on staying for the World Youth Day events and that's it, please stay extra or come early so that way you can go to Fatima. I can't even imagine. You're 35 minutes of a drive, a 45-minute train with a 10-minute bus to Fatima. Why not take advantage of being so close to Fatima and go there and check it out and
Yeah,
experience
absolutely.
the
And I think that
beauty?
that's I'm not that I'm disagreeing with Dario, but I think I'm going to disagree a little bit, just because I mean everybody's going to want to go to Fatima before World Eat Day, so it's going to be just crazy chaos, which will be fun, and it'll probably be included in a lot of the pilgrimages that people, a lot of the tours that people will go to Fatima. So that's it. But World Youth Day itself is a pilgrimage,
Yes.
right? So yeah, people went to Krakow and everybody wanted to go to Czestochowa because that's a pilgrimage site. And a lot of people in Rio, they wanted to go to Aparecida, to the shrine, because that's a pilgrimage site. Um, but don't forget that World Youth Day itself is a pilgrimage, and there are elements of pilgrimage, i.e., walking, that are actually built into the World Youth Day program. There's going to be a lot of walking anyway, but I think that we go with that pilgrimage experience, whether you end up staying in a hotel or not. I mean, if you're sleeping in a school on the floor, that really feels like a pilgrimage. But
Yes.
even if you're staying in a hotel, I think that we need to go with that pilgrimage, that attitude of pilgrimage. And it's definitely a unique pilgrimage, as you said, because it's not like going to Fatima or going to Lourdes or going to Guadalupe or going on the Camino. It's a World Youth Day, so it's a unique pilgrimage because you got a million other young people with you, and there's all these other things going on, and it's a festival, and I mean we're going to talk about all those things. But I think it's more of an internal. It's an
Yeah.
internal. So they say that a tourist will go to a lot of sites and come back with a heavier suitcase because of all the souvenirs. Well, a pilgrim goes and he doesn't go through all the sites, but he lets the sites go through him or her,
Mm.
and he comes back with a much lighter suitcase because he's left things behind. And so I think that that's the right attitude to go to a World Youth Day.
And you know what? We're going to talk about that very soon in a couple episodes from now when we hit what to bring on a World Youth Day experience, because that's a really good concept that Deacon Pedro just mentioned. And I don't think a lot of people think about like the fact that you go very light and you return very light because you
Much
leave
lighter.
things
Yes,
behind.
you should.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not just talking about the fact of the food because you're not eating the food properly. And again, we're going to talk
The
about
food
that
is
too.
not very good. Yeah.
No, but hey, but Lisbon, you got to be careful because in Lisbon they have a lot of sweets, and you know the pastel de nata. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to share with you guys. When you're listening in to the importance of trying out the food, the
Foods of
local
the country.
customs.
Yes.
Yes, the pastel de nata by itself, it's like going to Italy and having gelato. Like, you know, and there you can overindulge in gelato and then burn off the calories, but the pastel de nata, oh wow,
That stuff is good.
is
It's good stuff.
yes, and the sugar rush you're gonna get because of it. Oh, and anyways,
I
for
didn't
another
think
one,
of that. That's good. That's for another episode. That's the foods
yeah,
of World Youth Day.
right. Yeah. What's our next one?
Well, the next one I think is totally related to to all of them, but to the second one, like experience the true joy of being a Christian. So how do you experience that true joy? Because you're with all these other young people. I mean, in the spirit of pilgrimage, meeting with the Holy Father, but there's that aspect of festival, I think, that is kind of unique to World Youth Day in a sense, that there's music and there's art and there's stages. And like, so I remember Krakow, every block you'd go, there'd be another stage in a little park by a church, and there'd be
Yeah.
something happening. And so you get that really that festival atmosphere. And everybody's happy. Like you get on the bus and there's the group from Nicaragua and they're all singing songs, or the Neo-Catechumenal Ways and they're always singing songs, and it's always
That's
the song that
always,
always
even at
sounds
two
the
in the
same.
morning.
Right at 3 in the morning. But it's like it just infects the whole city with joy,
Yeah.
and everybody's just happy. And I think that's one of the things that I think that a lot of people talk about going to World Youth Day, where they come back and say, like, I thought I was alone because I don't see that in my parish.
Mm.
And then they see the universal church, and it's joyful and it's young and it's devout, and it's transformational.
And the best part is like you really learn how to evangelize. That
Yeah.
the concept of evangelization really hits you hard when you're communicating with those around you, learning about their faith experiences and having that be the catalyst that will eventually set you ablaze, right? So that you can go with haste, right? And share the good news. I mean, think of like the sacrament of confirmation, what it's supposed to do for you and I. It's supposed to help us be witnesses of the gospel. Remember, the word witness comes from the Greek word martyros, right? To be martyrs, right? It's where the word martyr comes from. So it's us being witnesses, without fear, shouting the gospel from the rooftops, as St. John Paul II described in his Novo Millennium Inuente, sending us out into this new millennia with a purpose. Young people gather together with joy, sharing the gospel with joy, right? This whole Gaudium, Evangelium Gaudium that Pope Francis described in his letter to not
Yeah,
only to the young people but for the whole church.
Yep.
And what did he say? He said, I believe he said this in Krakow. Go and make noise. Go and
Yeah,
make
go make a
noise, right?
mess. And in
Make
Rio,
a
he
mess.
said it. Yeah, go make a mess. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He said
Triumphio.
it in Rio.
It was
That's
in
right.
Rio. It was one of the first things he said, and it was not translated very well because
No.
make a mess doesn't really mean that. Go cause a ruckus. I think it's more like but you do that not because you're because of you're an anarchist. You do that because you're full of joy, and that's the same thing that you were saying, Dario, that you evangelize. Why? Because you're full of joy, because you've encountered Jesus Christ, and you've fallen in love, and you've been enraptured by this experience, and you want to share it, because that's what we do when we have an experience that we want to share, which I guess is why you and I are doing this show, because it's like World Youth Day has been so important to us that we just want to share it, right? And I think that leads us to the fifth one,
Yes.
because it's all about creating memories, but more than creating memories, I think it's about sharing those memories.
Yeah.
Right. You want to tell the stories. And we could spend hours. We probably have spent
Jeez.
hours telling stories, and things that we can't even remember.
I mean, what do you suggest for people who want to remember, though? I mean, what should they do?
I'm going to sound like an old guy here, but I'm going to say, put your phone away
Yes.
and stop taking pictures, and just use your eyes and your ears and just try to be present, because the memories that you remember here and in your heart are going to be much more lasting than your phone. I mean, do take pictures. You do want to take pictures. And
I love that idea of just being present. And also, when you go home and you process this, like every night, I would also write a couple things on a little journal.
Excellent.
Yeah, just a little couple things. What did I experience?
Yeah.
How did I experience it?
That is so
Why
important.
and why am I writing this?
That is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could be small things. You don't have to do big things, but just the small things that you'll remember. Just that one conversation you had on the bus with a young person from Zimbabwe, you know, and that you connected in such a way that you felt the solidarity between you and him or her, right? And just realize that, wow, you know, we have so much in common.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
beautiful to be able to share that with each other.
Yeah, you
That's the
know what? Yeah,
memories.
that's true because I actually had that experience during the papal visit where I didn't have time to sit and reflect at the end of not just at the end of every day, but at the end of every event because we had two major
Mm.
events a day. So like now when I'm trying to look back, I actually don't remember. It's just a blur. And so if you force yourself, even if it's at 2 in the morning and you can't
Yeah.
barely stay awake and you're tired and you're hungry and just a few write some things down and then at the end of the week while you're waiting for the plane at the airport or in the airplane write more so that and then you can look back at it and all these memories will return and even things that you didn't even remember and then you can write reflections on it because I think that's with scripture too. Like sometimes I'll look at the daily reading and be like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what happened today, or that's exactly what I was going through. Um, as you pray with the church and with what the Holy Father said. So like, what was the speech or the homily of the day? Oh, he said that, and this is what I was going through, and because we stayed up all night, or because we got lost, or because somebody got sick. Um, as you go through that experience. Yeah.
I would also add the fact that you know it's hard to do so, but you have to make time for it. And you know whether you do an adoration, whether you do it with a group, or whether you do it
Yeah.
by yourself, you got to take time to process each day and every opportunity you have. One of the things I did in a Camino is I wrote down my feelings and my emotions that I was going through my mind
Yeah.
as I was offering up prayers for the people that I promised to pray for on my journey. And I remember writing their name down. And I said, you know, Jim, I'm praying for you. This is mile number 400. I'm exhausted. I am hungry. But you know what? I'm thinking about, you know, you and hopefully that you are doing well in your struggle with cancer or, you know, praying for you. And the best part is when you come home, that could be something you share with those people who sponsored you.
Yeah.
And we can talk more about that in our next episode because
Yeah.
we're out of time,
But I was going
unfortunately.
to say, I was just before you,
I'm sorry.
no, but before you wrap up, no, this has been really good.
Yeah.
That if anybody is a youth leader or a leader that's taking a group, make a point at the end of every day, sit your group in a circle and then have everybody go and say one thing or share one thing. They don't have to, but at least give
No.
them the opportunity so that they can verbalize that. And then as a group, you're also experiencing those memories and helping each other remember. So create that space where your group can actually reflect on what happened.
One or
So
two takeaways. Don't go overboard,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And don't you tell you as the leader, you don't have to tell them what you think. You don't say anything. Just give them the opportunity for them to process.
Yeah. Let
And
him
then
talk.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then on Saturday or on Sunday or on Monday, when it's all over, then you can do something a little more, uh, maybe more complete, more organized. But give them those moments, and you're going to have a lot of moments of sitting around waiting for airplanes and waiting for buses and waiting for stuff. So like create
Yes,
those moments in
absolutely.
prayer where you can reflect.
No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And we'll spend more time talking about these in the future episodes. My dear friends, thank you for joining us on this episode of WYD Rocks as we look at the top 10 reasons to go to Lisbon 2023. On our next episode, we are going to hit number 6 through 10. From all of us at worldyouth.com and WYDcentral.org, God bless you guys. Take care, and we will see you next time.